Next, as part of the next administration, Elon Musk and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy will try to reduce the federal deficit. They'll lead the new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Trump is on board with the idea, as are most Republicans, and now some independents and Democrats are getting behind it. Elon Musk has blamed inflation on government spending and says the only way to tame it is to reduce the deficit. Joining us now to discuss is the former chief economist at the Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, Vance Ginn. The new Department of Government Efficiency will report to the OMB with cost-cutting ideas. Ginn is currently the president of Ginn Economic Consulting. Vance, good to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Now, House Representative Jared Moskowitz has become the first Democrat to join a House caucus dedicated to supporting the new Department of Government Efficiency. Is it important for this initiative to have bipartisan input?
It is. I mean, at the end of the day, these sort of reforms, whether they be on the regulatory side or the spending side and trying to reduce those overall, because government's already growing too big. We're running $2 trillion a year in deficits. The national debt is $36 trillion. And we're expecting at least $2 trillion a year in deficits over the next decade. So something has to be done. And this is ultimately going to take some bipartisan efforts, even with the slim majorities of Republicans in the House of only 2 seats. So the more Democrats can be on board, the better off that they're going to be from getting something done from the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, where Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are doing a great job of at least getting some ideas that are thrown around out there. I really hope that they can do something because it's a major problem, this excessive spending.
And there's a huge deficit, but Senator Bernie Sanders also recently agreed with Elon Musk about government waste. This wasn't a major talking point during the campaign season, though. Are you surprised it's so topical now?
Well, I mean, I think we've got to start looking at where do you want to cut in the government, and the low-hanging fruit that you can cut first would be the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and that would be a good place to get started. Of course, at the end of the day, there's going to need to be some reforms to Social Security and Medicare, which are usually off the table politically, but those are the two elephants in the room when you think about the massive spending and how much spending growth is going to happen in the future. But it was good to see, right, that Senator Bernie Sanders was agreeing with Musk on the need for reducing waste and reducing government spending in that sense. We just need to make sure it's a little bit broader as we move forward as well.
Now, you've been in the OMB. Did you see wasteful spending, and where did you think the biggest cuts will be made?
You know, I did. We did a top to bottom look at what was happening within the federal government and looking at the budget, trying to find cuts and reforms. And in the president's last budget for fiscal year 2021, which I helped write, we found $4.6 trillion in savings over a decade. And not by raising taxes, but by reducing the growth of spending over time. And so I think there's some key areas to look at when you look at safety nets or welfare types of reforms. Any sort of corporate welfare that's being handed out to businesses should be another place to be the top part of the chopping block. And then other areas that just don't seem very effective anymore, or not even roles for government. I think that's a big part of this discussion is, you know, when you look at the Department of Education, you look at the Department of Energy, are these really the roles for federal government, or could they be better done at the state level? I'm hopeful that will also be something they'll want to look at.
Now, will Elon Musk and DOGE face challenges along the way?
They will face challenges because there's going to be a lot of pushback. There's a lot of interested parties for each one of those dollars that are spent. There is a group that's supporting those changes or those forms of government. And so they'll always be out there pushing back on any sort of cuts or reforms or anything else like that, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way the political system works. And so what I hope that they can do is not only come out with some key reforms. I know they said about $2 trillion in cuts. That would be great. But also make sure that President Trump, the incoming President Trump, will be supportive of what they're doing, because he can use the bully pulpit of the presidency to say, you know what, Congress, if you're not going to follow through with these reforms and cuts of spending and regulations, I'm going to veto every other bill. So there's a lot of room that they can push to try to get these reforms put in place.
Now, as I understand it, DOGE will advise the OMB on where spending can be reduced. How exactly will that process work?
Well, I guess that'll be seen, but from what it looks like so far is that Doge is taking in all these ideas, meaning Elon Musk and Vivek and some others, taking in ideas, and then they'll start sifting through those to figure out which areas would be best to cut, what could they move forward with, what has the most support, and been working in tandem with Office of Management and Budget. OMB is going to be really important because they are really where all the money is sent through. Congress passes the laws, and then OMB really does a lot to send money out through the federal government. And so working in tandem will be really important. And I know Russ Vought has been nominated to be the head of OMB, who was my boss whenever I was there. And he will also take a good look at this. So working together outside of government, which is what DOGE is, it's not taxpayer funded or anything like that. They can then give insights to what the federal government should be doing at OMB and, of course, the president.
And what are your big hopes for the next administration when it comes to debt and deficits?
We've got to do something about it. This is one of my hobby horses that I talk about all the time is we're just spending way too much. We can't continue to run $2 trillion in national debt, net interest payments on the debt over $1 trillion a year. This is hurting families through higher inflation when the Federal Reserve monetizes or prints a lot of that debt. It's hurting families through higher interest rates because all that goes into higher interest rates in our economy. And so in order for us to have lower cost of living, which is the number one concern on people's minds in the last election and still today, right? That wasn't that long ago. They've got to do something about that. And it all is going to start with reining in government spending and cutting government spending wherever we can. So I'm hopeful for that. And deregulation will also be a good part of reducing the cost of living as well. So those two in tandem, I think, will be a great opportunity for pro-growth reforms in the next 4 years.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today, Vance. Great to speak with you.
Thank you so much.